Long before Harold's life became defined by duty and family, his childhood had been one of solitude and survival. Raised in a household where his mother, Brenda Logan, barely acknowledged his presence, he learned early on that affection was a currency he couldn't afford. His stepfather, Trevor Jacobs, was the only person who ever treated him with kindness. But Trevor's job as a long-haul trucker meant he was rarely home. That left Harold alone with Brenda and her favored son, Adam, Harold's half-brother, who never missed an opportunity to remind him of his status as an outsider. Harold had always been a disciplined child, but his sense of justice was sharpened by a traumatic incident at 12. A local gang of teenagers bullied a smaller boy at the park, and when Harold stepped in, they turned on him. Bloodied but defiant, he refused to back down. An off-duty police officer saw the confrontation and intervened, later telling Harold he had the heart of a fighter. That moment solidified Harold's belief that standing up for others, even at personal cost, was always the right thing to do. By 16, Harold had found solace in boxing, training in a rundown gym with older fighters who respected his discipline. He channeled every ounce of frustration and loneliness into his fists, learning to defend himself in ways his home life never allowed. Pressured by his mother, Harold enlisted in the Army after high school. The past became a distant memory, buried beneath responsibilities. But history has a way of resurfacing, and the truths Harold never faced would soon come knocking at his door. Harold Jacobs never thought of himself as extraordinary, just a man trying to do right by his family. Working as a security officer, he encountered all sorts of individuals, often stepping in as the authority figure to enforce regulations. Whether he carried a weapon or not, his profession demanded both resilience and composure. Physical fitness wasn't optional, it was essential. He routinely broke up altercations and removed disruptive individuals from hospitals, bars, and office buildings. The job was demanding, but he excelled at it. More than that, it gave him a sense of duty, preserving order, safeguarding others, and ensuring his loved ones were provided for. Sandra Marie Jacobs, his wife, was the love of his life. At 5'6", with a lean frame and youthful looks, she could still pass for someone in her early 20s. They met in high school, had their daughter, Rebecca, at 18. But their marriage wasn't just about the baby. Their love was real. After high school, Harold joined the Army, but left after 4 years, realizing it wasn't his path. He transitioned into security, starting with an armored truck service before climbing the ranks to regional director at a global security firm. Meanwhile, Sandra pursued accounting and became a bank manager. Together, they built a stable life. Rebecca had once been his world, but everything shifted in her teens. At 12, the rebellion began. By 14, she humiliated him at a block party. At 16, her ingratitude stung, especially when she dismissed the car he worked hard to buy. She still drove it, though, until her reckless boyfriend wrecked it. Harold's frustration deepened, not just with Rebecca's attitude, but with Sandra constantly defending her, undermining his authority. After a long day, Harold pulled into the driveway, a sense of satisfaction settling over him. He'd finally saved enough for their long-overdue anniversary trip to Jamaica. But as soon as he stepped inside, that satisfaction evaporated. Rebecca was descending the stairs, dressed in an outfit that made his jaw tighten. His voice was sharp. "Where do you think you're going, dressed like that?" Rebecca sighed and rolled her eyes. "The movies, then a party in Lafayette. I told you." Harold's frown deepened. "You never mentioned a party, and even if you had, you know I'd say no. Plus, you're not leaving in that outfit. Go change, you're grounded." Rebecca gaped. "For what? Clothes you don't like?" Harold's tone stayed firm. "No, for failing math and skipping school. The principal called today." Her nostrils flared. "You pathetic excuse of a man. Mom and I should have left you years ago, you loser." The slap landed before he even thought about it. Hard and sharp, she stumbled onto the couch, staring at him, stunned. Harold's voice was calm but ice-cold. "Under my roof, you follow my rules. I provide everything you take for granted. Food, shelter, discipline. You will never speak to me like that again. Understood?" Shaking, she barely whispered, "Yes, sir." "Good. 3-week grounding. Go upstairs." She fled, slamming her door. Harold exhaled, rubbing his temples. He needed a beer. Maybe a cigarette. 15 minutes later, his frustration hadn't eased. With a sigh, he knocked on Rebecca's door. "It's open," she murmured. Inside, her face was streaked with tears. No matter how defiant she was still his daughter. He sat on the edge of her bed, exhaling deeply. "I'm sorry it came to this. I shouldn't have touched you. But I don't understand why you're so distant, so cold toward me. And when you called me a loser, I snapped. He rubbed his hands together. But no matter what, I love you. I always will. If something's wrong, tell me so we can fix it. Rebecca lifted her head, eyes filled with pain and resentment, but she stayed silent. Harold sighed, kissed her forehead, and left. An hour later, Sandra's car screeched into the driveway. The front door slammed. "Who the hell do you think you are, slapping our daughter?" Harold remained calm in his recliner. "Good evening, honey. How was work?" He took a sip of beer. "Figured I'd ask, since you skipped that part. Not that you ever say it anymore, but that's another discussion. And to answer your question, her father, last I checked." He set down his beer, meeting her glare. "I love Rebecca, but I won't tolerate disrespect in my house." Sandra crossed her arms. "My daughter." "Our daughter," he corrected. Her jaw tightened. She hated when he pushed back. "Rebecca called me at work, crying, saying you slap her. Is that true?" Harold met her gaze. "Yes, hard enough to remind her who her father is," Sandra gasped. "So now you slap her when she says something you don't like?" Harold's patience thinned. His voice was even, but sharp. "No, but I will discipline her when she disrespects me. And before you start, did she tell you why? Or did you just take her word for it?" Sandra hesitated, rubbing her hands together. Her tell when she didn't have the full story. Harold scoffed. "Thought so. She tried sneaking out to a party she never mentioned, wearing something that would make grown men stare. She's been skipping school all week. Did you know that? Because I got a call from the principal today." "Those texts you ignored?" "Confirmed it." Sandra's expression faltered. "No, I didn't know." "At least you admit it." Harold shook his head. "But that's not why I slapped her. I slapped her because she looked me in the eye and said, 'You pathetic excuse of a man. Mom and I should have left you years ago.'" Sandra inhaled sharply, her composure cracking. Harold's voice was low, firm. "This has been building for years. Every eye roll, every disregard for my authority. And you, her mother, always shield her, making me the bad guy." His voice rose slightly. "I'm not perfect, but I work 60-hour weeks. I'm on call year-round, and I still show up for every school event. And when I finally put my foot down, I'm the villain?" Sandra stood frozen, seeing the raw pain in his eyes. She opened her mouth, hesitating. "Harold, maybe if you had just called me first." He exhaled sharply. "I need air." Grabbing his keys, he walked out. He didn't know where he was going. He just drove. Distance, space, away from a house that felt less like home every day. Harold's phone rang. Seeing his mother's name on the screen, he groaned. Of course. He answered with a weary sigh. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was sharp, already filled with outrage. "Don't hi, Mom, me. Sandra and Rebecca just called. Have you lost your damn mind?" Harold pinched the bridge of his nose. "Of course they did. They said you touched Rebecca and cursed out Sandra," she snapped. "No, Mom, just lost my patience." He hung up before she could say more. Brenda Logan had never been a warm mother. His biological father abandoned them, and she never let him forget it. The only one who had ever truly loved Harold was Trevor Jacobs, the man who raised him. Unlike his mother, Trevor treated him and his younger half-brother Adam equally. But Adam, their mother's golden child, always used Harold as a scapegoat. Now, parked near an empty drive-in, Harold sighed. He couldn't avoid home forever. With a deep breath, he turned the car around. When he pulled into the driveway, Sandra stood at the door. Her expression was softer than it had been in years. "Harold, I'm sorry." He raised a brow. She exhaled. "You're right. I take Rebecca's side too often. I make you the bad guy when you're just being her father. That's not fair." Harold felt some of his tension ease. He smiled. "That's all I ask. Just have my back, baby." Tears welled in her eyes. "I love you, Harold." He kissed her, pulling 2 tickets from his pocket. "We're going to Jamaica." Sandra gasped. "Seriously?" Harold chuckled. "Happy anniversary." She threw her arms around him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt it. Hope. The Jacobs household changed. Sandra stopped undermining Harold. Rebecca lost her defiance, and even his mother backed off. The only thing that felt off was Adam. His visits increased, and Rebecca seemed happier around him. It nagged at Harold, but he let it go. Life felt peaceful for now. With the trip approaching, Harold and Sandra deep-cleaned the house. When Rebecca realized she wasn't going, she was furious but stayed quiet. Harold ended her punishment, provided she kept her grades up, and told her that her grandmother and uncle would check in. Sandra worked in the garage while Harold tackled the attic. Sifting through old boxes, he found dusty photo albums, pictures of Trevor, his true father, snapshots of him and Sandra when they first fell in love, wedding photos, baby pictures of Rebecca, simpler times. A lump formed in his throat. As he packed the albums away, a plastic bag caught his eye. Inside were old letters and a large brown envelope. A sick feeling twisted in his gut as he opened the first letter. My dearest love, Adam. Last night was magical. Your touch is art. Harold could never make me feel this way. I just want to be in your arms again. Yours always, Sandra. His hands shook as he flipped through more letters, some from Sandra, some from Adam. My dearest Sandra, I knew I loved you from the start. Every moment with you is heaven. I love you, my beautiful woman. P.S. Rebecca has her mother's eyes. I love you both. The box slipped from Harold's grip. No, this isn't real. But it was. He reached for the last envelope. Probability of paternity 0%. His breath hitched. His vision blurred. Rebecca wasn't his. Everything. The coldness, the distance, the defiance made sense. His wife, his brother, the two people who should have loved him most had betrayed him. He forced himself to keep searching. More letters, romantic photos, explicit photos. A video, Sandra and Adam laughing on a date, using the phone Harold had bought her. His blood ran cold. The dates matched Rebecca's conception. His daughter, his Rebecca, was never his at all. His life was a lie. He had to leave. But first he needed proof. Moving mechanically, he grabbed the letters, the DNA test, and a strand of Rebecca's hair from her comb. He sealed it in a plastic bag. Plan first, execute later. As he walked downstairs, Sandra glanced up. Where are you going? We were supposed to finish cleaning. He swallowed the rage. I need some storage bins for the attic. Sandra smiled. Good idea. Can you grab dinner too? Harold forced a smile. Of course, dear. Then he leaned in and kissed her, the lips that had betrayed him for years. I love you, he whispered. I love you too, honey. The moment he stepped outside, he called Marcus. I need you. Urgent. Marcus Dwight, a former cop turned private investigator, had worked for Harold for years. Now, Harold needed him more than ever. When he arrived, Marcus took one look at him and frowned. Jesus, Harold, what the hell happened? That was all it took. Harold broke. By the time he finished explaining, Marcus was furious. He had seen this before. A man he knew had once discovered his child wasn't his, only to be legally forced to pay child support. The man snapped in court, eliminating his wife, the biological father, and the judge, before turning the colt on himself. Marcus had never forgotten that day. What do you want to do? He asked. Harold wiped his face, his expression turning to steel. First, I confirm the DNA. Then, I destroy them. Not illegally, he added. Not with violence, but they will feel everything I've felt, every ounce of pain, every bit of suffering, every shred of humiliation. Marcus smirked. Let's get to work. He led Harold to a back room filled with surveillance equipment. Tiny cameras, recording devices, hacking tools. All of this is legal, Marcus assured him. It's your house, your phone, your car. I just need your permission. Harold nodded without hesitation. Sign this, and I'm officially working for you, Marcus said, sliding over paperwork. Normally this level of service costs a fortune, but for this, I'm cutting my rate by 80%. Harold barely registered the generosity. He signed. Marcus handed him a card. Direct DNA lab. No mail-in wait times. I'll get it prioritized. Results in a week. Harold exhaled slowly. Let's do this. On his way home, Harold made another call. Charles, I need your help, he said, his voice tight with urgency. On the other end, Charles didn't hesitate. Harold, what's wrong? I'll explain in person. Can you meet now? Of course. My office. Give me an hour. An hour later, Harold stepped into Charles's office. His best friend and lawyer took one look at him and frowned. Holy hell, Charles said. What happened? Are Sandra and Rebecca okay? Harold tried to speak, but his throat tightened. Before he could stop himself, he broke down. The weight of betrayal crushed him. He told Charles everything. By the end, Charles's expression was pure rage. They won't get away with this. Marcus is right, he added. If the house, phone, and internet are in your name, you can legally monitor them. Even if Sandra deletes messages, we can recover them from the cloud. And with the evidence you already have, it's damning. Harold sat still, absorbing it all. And here's the kicker. Our state's at-fault divorce law changed. If you prove infidelity, Sandra loses. Your assets are protected. Harold let out a dry laugh. For once, the law's on my side? Charles sighed. Look, man, I can't imagine what you're going through, but you need to protect yourself. Harold's voice cracked. I loved her, Charles, 17 years, and now there's a real chance Rebecca isn't even mine. He buried his face in his hands. And Adam, my own brother. He's always hated me for existing. Now he's taken everything from me. Charles clenched his fists. We'll fix this. You've always been there for me. It's my turn to be there for you. The two men embraced, an unspoken promise between them. Harold drove home, replaying the day's revelations. Rage burned in his chest, but he couldn't let it show. Not yet. He had to act as if nothing had changed. The DNA results would take a week, but the more he thought about it, the clearer the signs became. Rebecca's attitude, her distance, her disrespect. Had she always known? When he arrived, the house looked the same. Sandra greeted him with a kiss. For a fleeting moment, he wanted to vomit. Instead, he kissed her back, played his part. They finished cleaning, had dinner. That night, Harold watched his so-called family interact, the illusion suffocating. Once the house was silent, he retrieved the hacking devices Marcus had given him and installed them on Sandra's and Rebecca's phones. A quick text to Marcus. It's done. 3 minutes later. Understood. Hacking in now. By the end of the week, he'd have everything he needed, whether he wanted it or not. Monday came. Rebecca went to school. Sandra went to work. Harold needed a distraction. He had always loved comic books, a passion buried under years of responsibility. On a whim, he searched for a local comic shop. Stepping inside, nostalgia hit him. Rows of comics lined the walls, vintage issues behind glass, superhero posters covering the ceiling. The scent of old paper and fresh ink filled the air. For the first time in years, he felt 10 years old again. He traced the edges of a comic, memories rushing back. Staying up late, debating heroes, losing himself in stories where justice always prevailed. Then, just as quickly, nostalgia turned to sadness. This place reminded him of someone he had lost long ago. As he approached the register, his heart nearly stopped. Standing behind the counter, scanning a purchase, was a woman he never thought he'd see again. Rose. She turned, eyes widening before a bright smile spread across her face. Harold, she whispered, then louder. Oh my God, it's been ages! Before he could react, she rushed from behind the counter and hugged him tight, as if afraid he'd disappear. He found his voice. Long time no see. Rose laughed, stepping back to take him in. How are you? For the first time in days, Harold smiled. A real, genuine smile. I'm here. And you? What are you doing here? Rose McAllister had been a part of his life since childhood. They met on a day he wished he could forget. Parents' Day at school. Every kid had a parent there except him. He had wanted Trevor to come, but his stepfather was on the road. That left Brenda. When he asked her to come, she scoffed. I work to feed you and put clothes on your back, and you want me to stop for some stupid school event? Don't be stupid. That day, Harold saw her with Adam. Hope flickered inside him as he approached, but the moment he tried to join them, she turned and slapped him. This is his day, his mother snapped. Don't be selfish. The words stung worse than the slap. He turned and ran, disappearing beneath the shade of a tree, silent tears tracing his cheeks. Then a voice broke through the quiet. Hey. Harold looked up. A girl he'd never seen before stood nearby, red hair tumbling past her shoulders, bright blue eyes filled with curiosity and warmth. I saw you run over here, she said gently. Why are you sad? He hesitated, then mumbled, My mom doesn't want to be around me. Without a moment's pause, she plopped down beside him. That sucks, she said matter-of-factly. Want to meet my parents? We're having a picnic. Harold hesitated again, then gave a small nod. A grin spread across her face. I'm Rose. What's your name? Harold. Well, Harold, she said, springing to her feet, race you down. And just like that, a lifelong friendship was born. They were inseparable. By high school, friendship had turned to love. Then Adam noticed. And like everything else, he wanted to take her from Harold. One day, Rose came to Harold's house. Adam got to the door first, flirted, tried to convince her to leave Harold. She refused. I'm with Harold. Only Harold. Adam didn't take it well. He grabbed her arm. She broke his nose. But Adam had something Harold didn't, Brenda's influence. She twisted the story, made Rose out to be the aggressor. The McAllisters were forced to leave town to avoid legal trouble. The night before she moved, they sat together in the park where they had met, holding each other in the quiet. Harold, I'm so sorry, Rose whispered, tears falling. I didn't know he'd take it this far. He wiped her tears. Not your fault. She pressed a finger to his lips. Don't fall on a grenade when you don't have to, Harold Jacobs. They had planned to wait for their first time, but that night, love overpowered everything. Then, in an instant, it was taken from them. Harold had stood in the street watching her drive away, knowing he'd never see her again. And now, here she was. Harold, Rose said, voice thick with emotion. I can't believe it. She had grown into a striking woman, athletic, confident, her short red hair framing her face. Tattoos now covered her arms, including a detailed Warhammer 40K Sister of Battle on her shoulder. Her black-framed glasses had tiny smiley faces on the handles. He shook his head, grinning. Holy hell, Rose, you look incredible, she smirked. Speak for yourself, Conan. Training for a movie role? They laughed. The years melted away. I'm on break soon. Want to catch up? Harold didn't hesitate. I'd love to. The break room was cozy. Harold looked around, impressed. How long have you worked here? Rose took a sip of her soda. Since I opened it a few months ago. Harold blinked. Wait, you own this place? She smirked. Turns out, if you have money, you can buy things. He chuckled, tossing a chip bag at her. Smartass. How? Her playful expression dimmed. My parents died last year. Car accident. Harold's smile faded. God, Rose, I'm so sorry. She exhaled. Thanks. They had life insurance policies and trusts I never knew about. I ended up with $2 million. Harold whistled. Damn. Yeah. I went to business school, found this old middle school, and turned it into my dream store. It's incredible, Harold admitted. She grinned. And the best part? I live upstairs, business downstairs, home upstairs, like a superhero. Harold was genuinely happy for her. Your guy must be the luckiest man alive. Rose hesitated. He's not in the picture anymore. Harold's brows furrowed. What happened? Walked in on him with another woman. In our bed. Harold clenched his jaw. You're kidding. She let out a bitter laugh. Nope. Best part? When I confronted him, he got mad at me for interrupting. Harold shook his head. What a piece of crap. Yep. And of course, he drained my money while we were together. Then when he found out I came into serious cash, he begged me to take him back. She shrugged. But, nah. Harold studied her, his heart aching. You deserve better. Rose smiled faintly. It's fine. I dodged a bullet. What about you? How have you been? Harold exhaled slowly. I just had something similar happen. Her head tilted. Tell me. And so he did. The affair, the betrayal, the DNA test, the years of deception. When he finished, Rose pulled him into a tight hug. Whatever happens, I'm here for you. Always. For the first time in days, Harold felt warmth. As they walked to the front of the store, Rose turned to him. Harold, I won't impose, but if you ever want to come back, my door is always open. He hesitated for only a second. I'd like that. They shared one last smile before he drove off. His phone buzzed. Marcus, meet me at Charles's office. Harold's stomach twisted. The moment he had been waiting for. The moment he dreaded. When he arrived, Marcus and Charles were already there, grim expressions on their faces. Marcus spoke first. Harold, it's bad. Harold's fists clenched. How bad? Marcus slid a folder toward him. Texts, videos. The affair has been going on since Rebecca was born. Harold swallowed hard. And the test? Marcus hesitated. Harold, she's not yours. Everything collapsed at once. The pain, the humiliation, the betrayal. Harold's voice was barely a whisper. We go scorched earth. Charles nodded. Understood. What's the plan? Harold's expression was cold. Sandra's expecting a surprise. I'll deliver it personally. And Adam? Harold's eyes darkened. He works at a firm. It'd be a shame if he got some bad news on the clock. Charles smirked. I'll make sure the papers are in his hands by the end of the day. Your divorce papers will be ready within the hour. Harold exhaled. No, have them ready, but I'll serve them at Rebecca's party. Everyone will be there. No more hiding. Charles raised an eyebrow, then nodded. Brutal. I like it. Harold's voice was firm. Our anniversary trip is soon. I'll confront Sandra there. Linda squeezed his arm. You're not alone in this. Harold hugged them and left. Jamaica. Sandra was radiant. She saw the trip as a fresh start, oblivious that it would mark the end of their marriage. Harold played along, taking her on hikes, romantic dinners, and beach strolls. She was happier than she had been in years. On the second night, under the moonlight, she pulled him close, desire in her eyes. Harold gave her what she wanted. To her, it was passion. To him, it was a final goodbye. The next morning, Sandra was still asleep beside him on the beach, her dress barely covering her. He nudged her. "Come on, let's get breakfast." At a beachfront restaurant, Sandra reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "Harold, this trip has been amazing. I love you. And when we get home, things will change. I promise." Harold set down his drink, locking eyes with her. "On that, we agree." He reached into his bag, pulled out a plastic bundle, and placed it on the table. Sandra's face went pale. The love letters, the ones she had written to Adam. Her hands shook. Where did you find these?" "In the attic. The day after you told me you loved me." Tears welled in her eyes. I can explain." Harold let out a dry chuckle. "Explain? A mistake is forgetting your keys. This was a choice," she sobbed. "When did it start?" She wiped her face. "A year after we started dating. We fought. Adam comforted me. He told me I was beautiful, that you didn't deserve me. We took a walk, ended up on the hill. It just happened." Harold's face remained unreadable. "It was supposed to be once," she continued, voice cracking. "But it happened again and again, sometimes once a year, sometimes more. We'd stop when you came back from duty or when it felt too risky." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Harold, I never stopped loving you," Sandra said, her voice trembling. His expression remained cold. "Don't," he warned. "You lost the right to say that." Sandra flinched. "Love requires loyalty, respect," he continued. "You have neither." Tears welled in her eyes, and then, as if the weight of his words finally broke her, she collapsed into quiet sobs. She knew he was right. Harold exhaled, steadying himself before delivering the final blow. "I saw the DNA test, Sandra," he said. "I know Rebecca isn't mine." Sandra gasped as if he had struck her. His voice hardened. "Not only did you betray me with my own brother, but you let me raise his child. A child I loved, who treated me like trash. Who is her real father, Sandra?" She trembled. I can't tell you." Harold simply stared at her. Then, without a word, he placed cash on the table. Breakfast was over. He stood and walked away. Sandra scrambled to follow, calling his name, but he never looked back. Back at the hotel, Harold packed his bags. Sandra stood in the doorway, pleading with her eyes, but he didn't stop, didn't ask for more explanations. He simply packed. Realizing he was truly done, she reluctantly did the same. Their marriage, like the trip, was over. On the flight home, Harold booked an earlier ticket. He needed to arrive before Sandra. When he walked through the door, Adam was already there, lounging on the couch, smirking. Harold didn't hesitate. "I know everything." Adam's smirk faded. "I'm fighting the urge to put your head through the coffee table. Do us both a favor. Get out of my house." Adam hesitated, then bolted. Harold wasted no time. He moved his belongings from the master bedroom into the basement guest room. The space he once saw as a retreat was now his refuge. 2 hours later, Sandra returned, finding Harold carrying the last of his things downstairs. For the first time, she realized he was done, and nothing she said would change it. The next morning, Harold met with Marcus, Charles, and Linda. "Rebecca's birthday is coming up. Grand Lion Hotel. That's where it happens." Marcus nodded. "I'm working security that night." Harold smirked. "Hope you like a bonus." Marcus grinned. "I love a bonus." Then his face darkened. I dug into Adam. 3 maltreatment claims at work, all buried. His company's shady, money laundering, fraud. Harold leaned back. Typical Adam. "The women are willing to testify." Harold nodded. "Marcus, after this, we talk about your promotion." Marcus chuckled. "Damn, I haven't even had my coffee yet." They all laughed, but the weight of what was coming loomed over them. "I need to get home," Harold said. "Still more to do." That night, Harold waited in the dimly lit living room, a glass of brandy in hand. He knew where they had been. Sandra, Rebecca, and his mother had spent the day with Adam. When they pulled into the driveway, he listened. Rebecca stepped out first. "Finally, I can't wait to leave that loser in this dump," Sandra frowned. "Rebecca, that loser raised you. Show some respect," Rebecca scoffed. "Please, you've been with my real dad my whole life under his nose." Harold's grip tightened on his glass. Then Rebecca sneered. "He kept me from Ryan. Now Ryan's with Shelley. I'll never forgive him. I hate him." Before Sandra could respond, a voice cut through the air. "Rebecca!" Both women froze. Harold stood in the doorway, swirling his drink, his shadow stretching across the floor. Sandra's voice shook. Harold, honey, it's not what you think. She said exactly what she meant, he interrupted. His gaze shifted to Rebecca. And you know what? That's fine. He took slow, deliberate steps forward. Sandra and Rebecca instinctively moved closer together. I know, Sandra, he said, his voice like ice. I know everything. That this spoiled, ungrateful brat isn't my daughter. That my brother is her real father. That my mother has known since Rebecca was 12. Sandra's face paled. And I know, he continued, his voice razor-sharp, that you told Rebecca I was cheating, to cover up your own affair. Harold's eyes locked onto Rebecca. I have no idea what I ever did to make you hate me. His voice was eerily calm. I gave you everything, and you spat on it. Rebecca stiffened, her throat tightening, unable to form a response. Harold took a slow breath, his gaze unwavering. When Tommy broke your heart at 15, I stayed up all night wiping your tears. When you were sick at 11, I made you soup because you hated being alone. When you started school, I was the proudest man alive. Tears welled in Rebecca's eyes, her chest tightening. And when I heard about your car accident, his voice wavered slightly before hardening again. I drove like hell because all I could think was, I need to get to my baby before it's too late. The room fell into suffocating silence. Then Harold turned to Sandra. And you, he spat, disgust in his tone. Tell me, did you and Adam laugh after every time you screwed in my bed? Sandra's breath hitched. Before she could respond, Harold lifted the TV remote and turned on the screen. The footage played instantly, multiple angles, crystal clear, no denying it. Sandra gasped, hands covering her mouth. You spied on me? She whispered in horror. Harold scoffed. Are you actually mad that I caught you? Sandra stammered. I can explain? Harold's laughter was hollow. Explain? His gaze turned icy. You think we can work through this? No, Sandra, we can't. This was a mistake, Sandra sobbed. All of it was a mistake. We've already covered what a mistake is, Harold said coldly. And I hate repeating myself. Sandra crumbled, but Harold remained unmoved. No, Sandra, he continued, voice sharp as a blade. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice, over and over. You chose to sleep with my brother. You chose to let me raise a child that wasn't mine. You chose to lie to me for decades. Rebecca flinched at the detachment in his voice. Harold exhaled, drained the last sip of his drink, then walked to the kitchen. He rinsed the glass, watching the water swirl down the drain, just like his marriage. Gone. Grabbing his jacket, he headed for the door. Sandra panicked. Where are you going? We need to talk. As a family. Harold let out a bitter laugh. What family? He turned, eyes full of contempt. Did you not hear a damn thing I just said? Sandra trembled. I'm leaving, he said firmly, because right now I can't stand the sight of either of you. He slammed the door behind him, storming to his Camaro. He needed to get out. Drinking at a bar was tempting, but he didn't want to be alone. He knew exactly where to go. Rose sat on her couch, German Shepherd puppies curled beside her. She had always wanted to be a mother, but life hadn't worked out that way. The men in her past had been disappointments. These pups filled the void. Her door buzzer rang. Frowning, she checked the camera. Her breath caught. Harold. She immediately unlocked the door. When she opened it, he didn't speak. He just pulled her into a tight embrace and broke down. His body shook as the pain finally crashed over him. The betrayal, the humiliation, the realization that his family had never truly loved him. Rose held him, running her fingers through his hair. It's okay, honey, she whispered, rocking him gently. I got you. Harold clung to her, letting himself feel for the first time in weeks. He had tried to be strong, but here, in the arms of someone who actually cared, he let go. When he finally pulled away, eyes red and puffy, he exhaled shakily. I feel like a joke, like I got hit by a car and everyone's laughing. And the real punchline? The people laughing are my own family. Rose's expression hardened. She had been cheated on before, but this was cruelty. Look at me, Harold. Through his tears, he did. No matter what happens, you have me, she said firmly. Understand? A weak smile crossed his lips. Good seeing you again, partner, she smirked. Yeah, it is. She nudged him toward the hallway. Guest room's yours. You need sleep, and I doubt your wife will mind. Harold actually laughed. No, I imagine not. Before heading to bed, he hugged her again. Thank you, Rose, for everything. She kissed his cheek. You'd do the same. The next morning, the smell of bacon and eggs woke him. Following the scent to the kitchen, he found Rose cooking, sunlight catching in her red hair. She turned, grinning. Morning, handsome. Hope you like Spam, onions, and cheese in your eggs. Also got bacon and toast. Harold, starving, chuckled. No complaints here. Rose tossed a dish towel at him. Are you doubting my cooking, sir? He caught it with a smirk. Not at all, madam. Just stating a fact. They laughed, warm and easy, something neither had felt in years. Then, at the same time, they both realized the last time they had laughed like this was when they were together. As they ate, Rose finally asked, So, what's next? Harold thought for a moment. At first, I thought maybe we could work things out, but after everything I've seen, no. There's no fixing this. I moved to the basement, but eventually I want them gone. Rose nodded. His phone buzzed. Rebecca. His jaw tightened. He hesitated, then answered. What do you want? Dad, I'm sorry, okay? Her voice was hesitant. You weren't supposed to find out like this. Harold clenched his teeth. And how exactly was I supposed to find out? Silence. Then, Rebecca sighed. Look, I want to go to college. How are you going to pay for it? Harold blinked. Excuse me? Rose waved a hand in front of his face, seeing his shock. Harold exhaled. Rebecca, go ask your real father. I owe you nothing. Before she could respond, he hung up and blocked her number. Harold set his phone down and met Rose's gaze. I need to get things started, he murmured. He didn't need to say more. She understood. The air between them shifted, electric with an unspoken connection, and then, as if drawn by instinct, their lips met. It wasn't just a kiss. It was years of longing compressed into a single moment. But then Harold pulled back, holding her gently at arm's length. Harold, I'm sorry, she whispered. You're hurting. And I took advantage. I shouldn't have. He placed a finger against her lips. You have nothing to be sorry for, Rose. What we had never really went away. It just got buried under life. Tears welled in her eyes. I never stopped loving you. Harold smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And I never stopped loving you. A single tear slipped down her cheek, and he wiped it away with his thumb. But I respect you, he said. And I respect my vows, even if Sandra never did. I need to hand her the divorce papers first. Close this the right way. That happens tonight. He exhaled. If there's any chance for us again, please, wait for me. Rose smiled through her tears and kissed his cheek. I waited 17 years to get my soulmate back. I can wait a little longer. Harold held her a moment longer before standing. For the first time in weeks, he felt something other than pain. He felt hope. That evening, Harold dressed in a sharp suit, adjusting his tie. Everything had changed, and yet all that mattered now was moving forward. At the Grand Lion Hotel, workers were setting up. Then he saw the banner. Rebecca's birthday party. Perfect. At home, gathering his things, his phone buzzed. Adam. Harold smirked. The phone was tapped. Might as well get more evidence. Harold answered the call. You piece of crap, Adam spat. What the hell did you do? Harold's smirk widened. Hello, Adam. Care to explain? Adam's voice was furious, laced with panic. HR called me in. A rep from OSA and the Department of Labor were there. 3 women filed complaints. Somehow, this time it's stuck. I'm on suspension. This wasn't supposed to happen. Harold chuckled. Let me guess. By fun. You mean maltreatment? Silence. Who do you think you're dealing with, Adam? His voice dipped into something lethal. I'm the guy whose wife you screwed, Adam scoffed. If I get fired, if I lose everything, I'll liquidate you. Harold smirked. Perfect. I hear you loud and clear, brother. Adam, mistaking his calm for fear, continued. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to Rebecca's party. You're going to smile, play the happy husband, and keep your mouth shut. Harold grinned. Crystal. Adam hung up. Harold chuckled. The idiot had no idea what he had just given him. At first, Harold hadn't planned on attending the party. But now it was the perfect stage. Harold pulled up to the Grand Lion Hotel in his freshly waxed Camaro. The valet practically drooled over it. Harold smirked. Easy, kid. Just had it detailed. The valet stammered until Harold handed him a crisp $100 bill. Think you can park it close to the exit? Won't be staying long. The valet grinned. Absolutely, sir. Inside, the ballroom was grand. Golden lighting, marble floors, an open bar, and a DJ setting the mood. Harold spotted Marcus, disguised as maintenance staff, and Charles, sharp in his suit. All set? Harold asked. Marcus smirked. Cameras are live. Mics are working. If anyone asks, we're just the help. Perfect. Guests arrived. Sandra, Rebecca, and Janet among them. His mother sauntered over, smirking. Finally came to your senses and decided to be here for Rebecca's big day? At least you got one thing right. Harold ignored her, sipping his drink. The party went on, dancing, speeches, drinks. Then Adam showed up, smirking as he hugged Rebecca. Sandra avoided Harold. Janet, as expected, looked at him with disdain. Rebecca took the mic, locking eyes with Harold before smirking. I look around this room and wonder, what is family? She paused. Because if it were just about blood, your own father couldn't disappoint you. A spotlight landed on Harold. I want to help people, she continued dramatically. I want to be a nurse, but my selfish, bitter father refuses to support me. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Harold sighed, set his drink down, and started clapping. Slow, rhythmic. The room fell silent. Harold stepped forward, voice calm but razor sharp. Brilliant. My daughter, everyone. He pulled a remote from his pocket and clicked. The projector flickered to life. Screenshots, texts, videos, everything. Rebecca's face drained of color. Sandra stiffened. Harold smirked. Oh, but we're just getting started. The screen changed. Sandra's love letters to Adam dripping with passion, mocking Harold's ignorance. Their secret plans, vacations Harold unknowingly funded, trips where he was conveniently left out. Then came the final dagger. Video footage. Sandra and Adam in Harold's bed. Multiple angles. Crystal clear. Adam laughing mid-act, mocking Harold. Sandra's scream tore through the room. Harold placed a manila envelope into her trembling hands. I want a divorce. Sandra shook her head, voice cracking. Harold, please, I sold the house, he interrupted, tone steady. It was in my name. Locks are changed. You have until the end of the week to get your things. After that, I never want to see you again. She clutched the envelope, shaking. Oh, and don't worry, Harold added. The assets are split evenly. You keep your 401k, I keep mine. The house, sold. His smirk widened. For $2,000. Gasps rippled through the crowd. At least you've got grocery money. Sandra swayed, looking like she might faint. You did this to yourself, Harold said coldly. Maybe you never meant to hurt me, but that didn't stop you when you spread your legs for my brother. It didn't stop you when you let me raise his child, a girl who treated me like garbage. Sandra sobbed into her hands. Harold's voice turned razor sharp. If you even think about fighting this, don't. This is an at-fault state. I have all the proof I need. You won't just lose, Sandra. You'll be left with nothing. His gaze shifted to Adam. And you? Harold chuckled. Good luck covering rent. His smirk deepened. Maybe Rebecca can wash dishes while your mother finally learns what it's like to work. Sandra bolted from the ballroom. Rebecca scrambled after her. Harold turned back to the stunned crowd, adjusting the microphone. Harold leaned back, his voice smooth, almost casual. Now, he said, let's talk about blood. The screen behind him flickered, shifting to a series of photos. Trevor Jacobs. Harold continued, his tone steady but laced with meaning. The only person in my family who ever truly loved me was this man, Trevor Jacobs. My biological father abandoned me. But Trevor, he stepped up. He raised me. He made me who I am today. His gaze locked onto Adam, his expression unreadable. And yet, my so-called brother resented me for existing. The screen flickered again. A file loaded. A crackle of static. Then audio filled the room. Adam's voice, raw and dripping with venom. You were born. If Mom had just gotten rid of you, things would have been different. Dad should have been mine alone. You had everything. Good grades, friends. While I was just your little brother. So when I had the chance to take Sandra, I took it. We were screwing the entire time you were in boot camp. By the time you came back, I laughed my A off knowing I made a doormat out of my idiot brother. Gasps echoed through the room. Adam tensed. If I get fired, if I lose everything, I'll liquidate you, Harold. Do you understand me? I will remove you from this earth. Silence. Harold tilted his head, amusement glinting in his eyes. Oh, Adam, you don't have to worry about being my brother anymore, because as far as I'm concerned, his smirk sharpened. You've been dead to me since the moment I found out you were screwing my wife. Adam snapped. He lunged. Harold sidestepped effortlessly, then delivered a brutal right hook to Adam's ribs. Adam crumpled, gasping. Marcus stepped in, cuffing him. Sir, you're being detained until the police arrive, for your safety and mine. Harold knelt beside him, slipping an envelope onto his chest. You've been served, scum sucker. Adam glared, but Harold didn't acknowledge it. He turned to Janet. And now we come to my mother. He paused. Actually, let's call you Janet, since you never really wanted to be a mother. Janet's smirk wavered. Harold flipped the screen. Texts, videos, Messages between Janet, Adam, and Sandra, mocking Harold, laughing at his ignorance, calling him pathetic, encouraging Rebecca to see him as a wallet. The crowd's disgust was audible. But wait, folks, there's more. Harold pulled out an old leather journal. The lock was broken. Janet paled. Janet kept a diary, Harold said, flipping a page. If Alex had just worn protection, my life would be different. But he was careful. It was me who lied. I told him I was on birth control when I wasn't. I thought he'd stay, but his family made sure he could walk away clean. He left me with Harold. I hate him for it. He was a burden before he was even born. Gasps. She wanted to get rid of me, Harold said quietly. But my grandfather, old money, big name, forced her to keep me. Janet clenched her fists. The screen changed again. Rusty. Janet flinched. Harold's voice lowered. Mom's friend. Always around when Dad was away. People shifted uncomfortably. I was 5 the first time he came into my room, Harold said, voice steady. Touched me in ways no child should ever endure. More gasps. A woman sobbed. I told my mother. His voice hardened. She slapped me, told me to stop lying, threatened to send me away. Silence. Then recordings played, his father confirming it. Audio of Janet admitting she regretted keeping Harold. Disgust rippled through the crowd. Harold turned to Janet. I never had a choice in being born, but I have a choice now. Harold's voice turned to ice. You're dead to me. Janet's face went pale, his words cut deeper. When you die, no one will be there. No one will care, and you'll deserve it. The room fell into a suffocating silence. Harold exhaled, his expression unreadable. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the night. As the police dragged Adam away, Harold barely spared him a glance. Instead, he turned to Sandra and Rebecca, his tone devoid of warmth. We're done. If you need anything, talk to my lawyer. With that, he walked out. As he reached Marcus, he extended his hand. Thanks for everything. Marcus smirked. You could at least give me some PTO for this circus. Harold chuckled. 2 weeks, effective immediately. Use them whenever you want. Marcus grinned. You gonna be all right? You got somewhere to go? Harold smiled. Yeah, I got a place. Rose woke to the sound of her apartment buzzer. Seeing Harold on the screen, she let him in without a second thought. When she opened the door, they didn't need words. They just fell into each other's arms, lips colliding in a kiss filled with years of longing. Clothes were shed as they stumbled toward the bedroom, hands roaming, breathless with need. That night they made love as if they had been waiting a lifetime for this moment. The next morning, Harold woke to find Rose curled against him, her arm draped over his chest as if she never wanted to let go. When she stirred, she smiled sleepily and kissed him softly. Morning, sleepyhead, she whispered. Harold ran his fingers through her hair, savoring the moment. Morning, beautiful. She traced slow circles on his chest. So, how did last night go? Harold exhaled, staring at the ceiling, like watching a beautiful lie crumble, and still missing it even after the truth came out. Rose lifted her head, concern in her eyes. Before she could speak, Harold turned to her, meeting her gaze. But for once, the truth is better than the lie could ever be. She smiled and kissed him again, this time slow and deep. When she pulled away, her expression was serious. I love you, Harold. I never want to lose you again. I'll fight anything and anyone to make sure that never happens. Harold cupped her face, brushing his thumb against her cheek. That goes for you, too. He hesitated before sighing. But I do have a small problem. Rose raised an eyebrow. What is it? Harold rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I may have sold my house on impulse, and now I'm homeless. He glanced at her. Think I can crash here for a bit, just until I figure things out? Rose shut him up with a cascade of kisses. You can stay as long as you want, you idiot. Harold laughed, pulling her closer. They spent the rest of the day in bed, wrapped up in each other, making up for lost time. The next day, Harold officially moved out, leaving Sandra and Rebecca's belongings in a storage unit. He taped the address and keys to the front door. That was their problem now. A few days later, Charles called. Harold, it's Sandra. She'll sign whatever you want. No contest. But she insists on talking to you first. Harold leaned back in his chair, considering. He didn't need her cooperation. She had no choice but to sign. But a drawn-out battle didn't interest him. He just wanted her gone so he could move forward with Rose, the one person who had never lied to him. All right, Charles. Tell me when and where. The next day, he met Sandra at Charles's office. She looked hollow, like a woman who had finally realized the consequences of her actions. Despite protests from her lawyer, she insisted on speaking privately. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then Sandra finally spoke. "I know it doesn't matter now," she said quietly, "but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Truly sorry, Harold." Her voice wavered. "You might not believe me, but I did love you." Harold remained expressionless. "I can't justify what I did to you," she continued, tears brimming, "or how I let Rebecca treat you. I failed you, as a wife, as a partner, in every way." Harold tilted his head. "Was it something I did or didn't do?" Sandra shook her head frantically. "No, God, no, Harold, this is all on me. I made those choices. I destroyed us." She inhaled shakily before standing. "Call the lawyers in." The moment they returned, she signed the divorce papers without hesitation. As she handed them back, she whispered, "Rebecca will stay with me. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. One last time." And with that, she walked out of his life forever. 3 months later, Harold's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. He hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A professional-sounding woman responded. "Mr. Jacobs, I'm calling on behalf of Michael Williams." Harold frowned. "My grandfather?" "Yes, his health has declined, and he wanted you to know he has disinherited your mother based on recent revelations." Harold sat up straighter, his grip tightening on the phone. The woman continued. "He left a letter for you." She began reading. "My dear grandson, I am so sorry I didn't protect you from the pain you endured. I was angry with your mother, but I never knew the full extent of what she had done to you. She kept you from me, and in doing so, I missed the chance to truly know you. I am giving you my trust, $500 million. Use it wisely, not for revenge, but to build something better. Your mother was once a beneficiary, but after everything, I'm giving you her share as well. If I have one regret, it's that I never got to take you fishing one last time. Those were some of my happiest memories with you. Harold, I was proud of you the day you put on the same uniform I once wore. I was proud of the man you became, the provider you tried to be for the family that didn't deserve you. May this gift be the start of a new chapter, one where you finally have the love you've always deserved. I love you, Harold Jacobs. I always have, and I always will. Old man." Tears slipped down Harold's face, not for the money, but because for the first time, he knew he had a blood relative who truly loved him. When he told Rose, she hugged him tightly before pulling back with a smirk. "We're getting you a prenup." Harold blinked. "What?" Rose crossed her arms. "I love you, but after everything, I want you to be with someone loyal to you, not your bank account. Let me prove that to you." Harold smiled. "All right, beautiful, but I'm picking dinner on our honeymoon." Rose grinned. "Deal." 7 months later, they married in a small, intimate ceremony. Rose, glowing with pregnancy, walked down the aisle in a stunning white dress as their closest friends stood by their side. Months later, Harold held his newborn twins, Jack and Sally. When the DNA results confirmed what they already knew, Harold broke down in happy tears. "I love you," he whispered to Rose, holding his family close. "Thank you for giving me this." Rose kissed his forehead. "And I'll keep showing you every day just how much you're loved." For the first time in his life, Harold knew what it meant to have a real family, and he would never take it for granted.